Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Reds Rundown podcast, hosted by two lifelong Reds fans and journalists. I'm Rob. He's Joe. And we appreciate you taking the time to join us. Joe, as always, we like to start this off with a, how you doing? What's going on in the world of Joe DiTullio?
Oh, not much. Just excited for some Reds baseball. We got some other interesting things going on. NBA free agency. We have the possible All-Star game coming up here for a lot of the Reds that we'll be talking about, I'm sure, in the next couple of weeks. And there's some soccer going on in the country, FIFA Club World Cup and the CONCACAF Gold Cup for the USA. So a lot of sports to be watched right now in a way that most summers usually don't have. And with the Reds being good, it makes it even better for us.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. The Reds have been very fun to watch, and we're going to discuss that today. And I guess I'll just go over it. We're going to do injury updates as always. We'll go through the games. The players only meeting that came out recently. We'll talk about that. The bats are batting is what I'm calling this one. This section, we'll talk about some of the players who are heating up. We'll talk a tiny bit about the bullpen and Chase Burns, and then we'll head into the Red Sox Phillies. Joe, question of the day. Let us know what you guys think, either on Twitter or in the comment section below, is who is the leader of this team right now? We got more information on that. We will discuss that. Who do you guys think the leader of this team is? It could be emotionally, on the field, all that kind of stuff. Let us know. But let's hop into it here. We had some crazy games this past week. We started off with the Yankees, Joe, the New York Yankees, the Bronx Bombers, and the Reds would go out and win a Nick Lodolo start where he didn't have his best stuff. He wasn't terrible, but the Reds would go out there and win 6-1. The Yankees would go up early off an Aaron Judge, just absolute mammoth shot to left field, and that would be all that they would get. Gavin Lux would hit a home run. Ellie De La Cruz would hit a home run as well. The Reds would go on and take the first game in a surprising manner, to say the least. Then we would get a walk-off victory, the first one of the week against the Yankees in extra innings. It was a Chase Burns start. An incredible game overall. Chase Burns would come in, Joe. He would strike out the first 5 batters of the game. He'd ultimately give up a single to, I believe it was Jazz Chisholm. And then he would strike out his 6th batter. So all 6 of his first 6 outs in his career were strikeouts. He would go 5 innings, give up 6 hits, 3 earned runs. It was really a rare bad decision by TJ Friedl that would really ultimately end up giving up a little bit more runs than he had anticipated. But the Reds would figure out a way, and they would have to. Lyon Richardson would come in, Connor Phillips would come in. It would be big hits from just about everybody in this game, and ultimately it would be a walk-off. Who got the walk-off, John? Is it Encarnacion Strand? I cannot remember who got the... No, it was Lux. Gavin Lux. I remember. Yeah, Gavin Lux. Yeah. Sorry. Gavin Lux would get the walk-off off of Leiter Jr. Up the middle, he'd come in for a pinch hit and give the Reds a huge win over the Yankees. You couldn't expect them to keep them down the whole series, though. The Reds would lose 7-1. You had Max Fried pitching. He was outstanding. 7 innings, 4 hits, only the 1 run given up, 7 strikeouts. Brady Singer wasn't terrible, but wasn't great. 5 innings, 4 earned runs, 9 Ks. He did give up a home run. Jabot would come in and only expound on that and make it worse. But, considering a lot of the bullpen didn't feel like they were exactly available, Joe, taking 2 out of 3 from a very good hitting Yankees team and keeping them, to 5 runs in the first 2 games, outscoring them 11-5 was really big. They would ultimately tie it 12-12 throughout the series, but what are you going to do? Taking 2 out of 3 against a good Yankees team is always great.
Yeah, this was a series I did not expect them to win 2 games in just because of how good the Yankees are and, just with how much power they had. And yes, Judge did tag them a little bit, but they were able to bounce back. I was at the game Monday. I kind of thought when they started piling on a little bit early that maybe they'd run away with it. It was good by the Reds after that that one run given up that they were able to battle back. As we've seen, they have struggled to come back in games this season, no matter what time of the game is. But also, the ushers don't like when you yell "fuck the Yankees." For anyone out
Yeah,
there who
heard
wants to know
about that.
they don't like that. So I think it should be okay to say stuff like that at big games, but they disagree. So there was a little bit of a threat to throw me out, but it was okay. We
Wait,
smoothed it over with
really?
everyone.
Did you
Yeah,
hear that there were other people who were doing that with, I forget which other team it was, but there was another team as well recently that this happened at a home game. I saw it all over Twitter. So, wow.
yeah.
Okay.
I think that so what's crazy is people were saying it on Tuesday and Yankees suck and all that. They were saying that on Tuesday, the game I wasn't at. So yeah, just I like having a little bit of an edge. It's if you're not making it personal attacks on people. We saw that in Major League Baseball this week with Ketel Marte. As long as you're not making it personal, I think it's fine. But
Yeah.
yeah, the energy in the stadium was great. I would have liked to see more Reds fans and Yankees fans. I know there's a lot of people who cheer for the Yankees all across the world, but there's even people wearing Reds and Yankee stuff, and that just made me sick. I know, Rob, you cheer for both, but I don't think you'd ever go to a Reds game with both teams on at the same
I
time.
will always cheer
That's
for the
crazy.
Reds over the Yankees.
Right.
Absolutely.
Right. If you went to a Yankees versus the Blue Jays game, maybe you wear a Yankees thing there. I
Yes.
get it, but the Reds and Yankees at the same time. So that was crazy. But the energy in the stadium was really good, and partially because the Yankees fans were there too. So that was Monday. Tuesday, Burns. We were pretty close. He had the 3 earned runs in 5 innings, and it was very close. Like you said, TJ Friedl had a really bad week of baseball this week, and just any way you look at it, and that's okay. He's been our most consistent player. He's allowed to have one bad week, but he kind of cost him there. And then the last game, I didn't expect them to win that game from the start with Fried going on the mound. Our record against lefties is okay, but it still feels like we don't hit them very well, as evidenced by this game 7-1, and Singer gets the loss there. But yeah, it's a good series overall. Winning 2 out of 3 from the Yankees, I think it kind of shows our confidence levels can sustain. I know we're going to talk a little bit later about what they've done in June and why they're doing it and all that stuff. And they've won, after the Padres series, they won 6 out of the last 7. But I was really focused on this series because they had just lost their first series in the month of June, I believe, or the second series in the month of June. The first one was the Brewers. When they lost to the Cardinals, we do specifically struggle with our division. We talked about that last week. But I was just like, okay, let's try to get this back on track. It's not the easiest when you're playing the Yankees. And we did that. And we came back. We faced adversity. After that Tuesday win, we're 1-30 after losing after 1-30 when losing after 6 innings. We come back one time, and then we ended up doing it again later. So it was good stuff.
Yeah, it was awesome. It really was, I think, a really good series for the Reds. I think that they have been playing some very good baseball, to say the least, and I'm very, I'm very excited. I'm looking up right now, Joe, their 2025 record in June. We'll go over that here in a second, but I think we'll hop it just right into these Padres games over the weekend. So we had the Thursday off. Reds got some rest, and Nick Martinez, good for him, took a no-no into the 9th inning. The Reds tacked on early. Spencer Steer hit 3 home runs. He was on 4 home run watch as well, which was pretty incredible. He basically carried. Austin Hayes came back, hit a big RBI double early in the game. But Martinez would end up giving up 1 run. You could tell he was gassed by the end. And to be fair, the man had pitched out of the bullpen twice since his last start. So you have to give him credit for even going out there at all and doing what he did. He is probably exhausted, but he did lower his ERA to almost below a 4, which is very, very nice to see for him. But he was outstanding. The Reds would win 8-1 in the first game. The Saturday game was an unfortunate one. The Reds would go up early, 3-0. The Padres would claw their way back. The Reds would go up 4-1 off of some big hits from just about everybody. Friedel would have a nice game. McLean had a really big game as well. Gavin Lux, Benson, even Reese Hines had a really nice single in that game. Abbott was not his normal self, but was still outstanding. 5 innings, 1 run on 7 hits, 4 strikeouts. His lone run coming off of a home run by Luis Arias, which was wild. He also struck out Luis Arias, so 2 things that normally do not happen for him happened in 1 game. So a weird game, but Scott Barlow and unfortunately Lyon Richardson would give up a big 3-run home run to Gavin Sheets that would ultimately end up losing the game. Gavin Sheets did have a hell of a day. on Saturday. He had 3 huge hits, 2 doubles, a home run, and he had a pretty much a game-winning steal of a hit in left field. I believe it was by Hines. He would have been driving in at least 1 run in that situation. But the Sunday game, Joe, would be a fun one. Nick Lodolo, again, these young guys are learning how to pitch when they don't have their best stuff. I agree with the broadcast. I don't think that Lodolo has been the guy that we have always seen in the past. I think he has found a way to pitch when he doesn't have his best stuff, but he went 5 1/3. Yes, he gave up 7 hits, but he only gave up the 1 earned run on the home run by Xander Bogaerts. He had 5 strikeouts as well. The bullpen would shut it down, but the Reds would still be in trouble here. Down 2-1. You get into the 9th inning. They get the first out. Elly De La Cruz, Joe, a 10-pitch at bat, gets a single, gets himself into position. Then the Reds would go on and have a couple great at-bats in a row as well. Gavin Lux with a huge walk. Spencer Steer with the game-tying hit. Jose Trevino would load the bases with a single to right field. And then Will Benson with his 3rd hit of the day. He was seeing the ball very well. Easily would have cleared the bases on it anyways, but hits a absolute rope down the right field line to win it for the Reds. 3-2 on a walk-off. Their second walk-off of the weekend. And Suarez is one of the best relievers in baseball. We saw him absolutely light up the Reds the night before. And it was an awesome, awesome game to see the Reds go out and do this. Joe, I really had a feeling maybe they would try to come back. I thought it would be in the 8th inning, though, that they would, tie it up and then maybe win it in a walk-off on the 9th. But hey, you know what? They got it done. And 4-2 on the week against 2 good baseball teams. I want to remind everybody, the Yankees were 46-34. By the end of the series against the Reds, and the Padres 45-38 by the end of the series with the Reds. The Reds are now 4 games over 500, which is pretty outstanding, especially for the way things have been going for this team. They are within 2.5 games, I believe it is. Yeah, 2.5 games of the wild card. The Cardinals and the Brewers are both holding those last 2 spots. The Mets have been struggling mightily right now, and as well, the Cubbies lost again last night, Joe. So the Reds are within 5 games right now of the NL Central, something neither of us thought would happen. The Cubs are finally starting to kind of lose their hot start, to say the least. I'm excited. This team is right in the thick of it.
Oh, absolutely. This is a really good week for the Reds. Maybe one of the better weeks that we've had as Reds fans. Yes, we had that 2023 one on that win streak in the middle of the season, but this against the quality of competition and kind of at a time where we talked about how tough this month was. It was really big. There is definitely things that need to improve, but we'll start off with the good stuff. I thought the base running was much more improved. We saw Elly score that when the throw came in and a little bit high to the catcher. He was able to slide in and get in. Very good on him and J.R. House. TJ Friedel to get picked off first. That's tough. But again, he had a bad week. He's going to bounce back. He'll be fine. Will Benson, good to get that walk-off again. Not sure I want him starting every day, but there are times where he just really does provide some life, and I can definitely see him being a guy who just stays on the bench and get some starts here and there. Batting average up to 233, which if you just told me he's batting 233 this year after what he did last year, I would have been very happy with that. So good for him to get that moment. Again, still think they're going to go after a bat, and maybe his job and maybe some others are in jeopardy. Now to the stuff that I think has a bad rap. The bullpen did the second game of the series. They did kind of mess that up a little bit, but the bullpen did okay this last week or two. They're moving their ERA down. They're moving up the ranks. I think they're ranked 18th in bullpen ERA right now. Still not quite where you want it if you want to be a team that's competing in the playoffs. But there's several other the Phillies have a worse bullpen right now. Obviously, they have one of their relievers suspended 80 games, Jose Alvarado, who's very good. But we're moving our way up, and that's a good sign. And I like that Terry Francona, the day after some of those guys blew it, the next day he went right back to him and gave him the ball. I think he's trying to build some confidence and build some momentum and some trust of saying, hey, if you have one bad outing, we're not going to hold it against you. I'm not sure I would have been that patient, to be honest, with some of the guys. Some of the guys out of the bullpen do frustrate me at times. But
yeah,
I think it's good for team building, and they did get the job done in the third game of the series. And yeah, I think still there's just some holes in the lineup. We have Spencer Steer had a heck of a series. He's all the way up to 254 batting average, so he's not a hole
Crazy.
in the lineup anymore. Matt McClain's at 206, so it got better. Now it's kind of fluctuating. And CES, he's a hole in the lineup no matter how you look at it right now. And after that good Diamondback series, and I think one game against Cleveland, he has 5 hits after June 9th. So I guess what I'm saying is the fact that they've been able to do this is very, very impressive. Imagine if they add a bat or two to add to this lineup to fill those holes, because it would be amazing if they did. Maybe CES Quintana again too can provide some value, but for right now, if we're trying to win, that's kind of what I'm looking at. And getting Austin Hayes back is going to help too, and I'm very, very high on this team given what they have done so far, and they know that the weaknesses on the team are very easy to fix. They can go get one bat, whether they put him at DH or wherever they put him in the field. I don't really care. They can go get one or two bullpen arms, and pretty cheaply, might add too. I think this year.
Yep.
So that's what's really encouraging about this team is not just that they're beating this hard schedule. They're 4 games above 500. They're still in the thick of a playoff race, even though it is a little bit tougher than most years. It's that their needs of what they need to happen to really push themselves over the edge to make the playoffs and maybe win one series is such a low cost, like a rental bat and 2 bullpen arms, and we can definitely do that. And we have a really good, solid base right now.
Yeah, and I think the interesting part is that, like you said, there are ways to fix it. I think there are going to be teams that are going to fall off in the next 3 weeks, by the way. The Reds are very fortunate in the sense that if they can survive this week that we're going to talk about here, they've got one of the easiest schedules pre-All-Star game and even a tiny bit afterwards. So I think the Reds are going to be in a good position, and they still have a lot of games left to play against the Central as well, which is good for them because they can make up ground. They're going to have to, right? And I think that, what's been unfortunate is that Milwaukee has been on an absolute tear. St. Louis is kind of kept in it. Even Pittsburgh is 13-13 this month, Joe. Which is kind of wild. They're starting to play some decent baseball. They just swept the Mets this past weekend. So NL Central is looking better and better as things kind of go on. The Reds, by the way, 15-10 in June, Joe. We will take that every single freaking day. The Reds have actually only had 1 month because they count March and April here in this one. At least they went 16-15, but really May could have been better, but other than that, they've been an above 500 baseball team for the rest of the season so far. Would love to go out and get a win today. 6 games above 500 in any month is something that you will always take, to say the least. But we'll move on here. Injury updates, Joe. Couple things. Like you said, Austin Hayes is back and in the lineup. I only put him in here not just to say that he's back, but because apparently Tito has said that they are going to play him like 2 out of every 3 games, essentially. He'll be available to pinch hit, but at least for a little while, I think they want to make sure that he's really fully back. He took that ball in that first game off of his foot, Joe, and I was like, oh no, and then they showed that he's got that guard on, which is good. Connor Joe, unfortunately, his child gave him hand, foot, and mouth, so that stuff spreads like crazy, so he will not be back until it is fully and completely gone. Godspeed. I've heard that it is a very painful thing, especially as a baseball player, because your hands get kind of messed up. So we'll have to see how that goes. Hunter Green, good news from him. He will be pitching in a simulated game on July 2nd with Graham Ashcraft, who has also started throwing again. It sounds like they kind of want to get Hunter back for at least 1 start, maybe 2 before the All-Star break, which would be huge for our Reds. Noel V. Marte, they want to see him hit. He is back. It sounds like they want to make sure that he's kind of okay, but they also want to apparently make sure that he can hit, is what they were saying on the broadcast. They want him to come up with some confidence. He had a 3-run triple, or a 2-run triple the other day, or yesterday, I think it was. I don't know what else he did in those games, but I did see that, so hopefully he'll be able to get some stuff done. And then Jake Fraley, really unfortunate for him. I think he's been a really nice piece to this team. I don't think he's obviously a starter every day, but he's consistently a guy who you can rely on to give good at-bats for the most part and play some okay defense most of the time. But on a diving play he made earlier this week, or attempted to make, he had a partially torn labrum. He's going for a third opinion. which it's just that's the guy who Fraley is. He's not going to give up until he gets an answer that he either can't refuse or one that he wants differently. And I will be honest with you, this is kind of what happened with McLean. I think Fraley's going to be out for the season, Joe, and probably even part of next season, which is a huge bummer for him because I do think he brings a lot to this team. But this makes getting an outfielder even more important, Joe. I can't watch Rhys Hines and CES in a lineup, both swinging and flailing at pitches all over the freaking zone. So any thoughts on these injuries before we move on to, I think, the most important news that we've had as Reds fans in a while?
Yeah, I think you're right. I think I'll address this kind of in different parts, but as we keep on seeing like these Reds fans who like, oh, Santiago Espinal, what does he do? Or like Connor Joe. I'm more upset by like the stuff with Rhys Hines and CES with the bad at bats and the fluctuating. Like 1 week they'll be awesome, and then for the next 5 they do nothing. So I said it earlier. Address your biggest problems first. Santiago Espinal and Connor Joe could be fine bench players for us. As long as we get some more people in the starting lineup most days, they can be fine bench pieces. So everyone's attention online is, I think, misguided a little bit. Yes, we shouldn't have Santiago Espinal batting second. Maybe we shouldn't have Matt McLean batting second right now either. But first of all, let's address the things like Rhys Hines having bad at bats, CES having bad at bats, and CES after moving all his WAR all the way up, he's back down to minus 0.9, which is the lowest it's been all season. Yes, Santiago Espinal has a minus 1.0 WAR, but CES is the guy who was designed for WAR because he's supposed to be a power bat and one that provides more value to WAR. But moving on with the injuries, I think this makes it a little bit more, I would say, interesting to see what happens when we get Hunter Green back to start. We're going to talk about that later, but the fact that we've done this without some of our guys that I think, besides Green, maybe not the most important, maybe not the best players, Marte could be a good person for the lineup. We'll see if he comes back and keeps on hitting consistently. I'm very sad for Jake Fraley. He's just battled through a lot of stuff these last couple of years, and maybe that makes the decision easier for them to go get a bat to just like, hey, we're down in person, we need to go get a bat, and if they play outfield or DH, I think we can do that. And it just kind of opens things up a little bit, as sad as that might be.
Yeah, I think the Fraley injury, I mean this in the absolute best way, Jake, because I really, truly hope you recover. You're one of my favorite, like, gadget-type piece players, I think, for this team, even though he was frustrating when he lost his power, but he was seemingly finding it. And a partially torn labrum is not going to help that, especially as a lefty swinger, to kind of get that bat through the zone for more power. But I think this is going to force the Reds' hand. This may be the injury that forces the Reds to have to go do something. We'll see. Forcing is maybe not the right way to put it, but we'll have to see. Joe, there was a piece by Charlie Goldsmith, which I want to say real quickly, by the way. Charlie Goldsmith is one of my all-time favorites in terms of just the way he covers teams. He is so freaking good, dude. I want to give him just a little shout-out here. But, yeah, apparently Gavin Lux and Jose Trevino called a players-only meeting on, I believe it was June 6th. So the Reds had just, let me check and make sure I got this right here. I believe they had just lost to Milwaukee. Yeah, so it was before that Diamondbacks series. The game got rained out, as a reminder. The Reds then went and swept the Diamondbacks. But the Reds called a player-only meeting, and they talked about the fact that they had struggled to, come back in games. They were 30-33 at the time. And, they kind of talked about the way that they wanted to go about playing baseball, right? Like, and how they needed to have fight in them. They needed to realize, the opportunities that they had. And they decided they were going to start talking more. One of the things that was interesting is when somebody would struggle, they'd come in, they'd sit on the iPad and try to focus too much on their swing and all these other things. Instead, they have taken all the iPads out of the dugout except for one, right? And they are now focused more on talking about what they are seeing and making those adjustments. Since then, the Reds are 15-10, right? I think is what it is. No, whatever. Sorry. They were 12-5, so they're 14-6, I guess, since that time. And the Reds have just been absolutely outstanding. Their bats have completely changed. And it feels like Trevino and Lux, maybe that's part of the reason why they brought them in. They even said in the article that the Reds made the decision to sign Trevino after they saw his leadership abilities. He's talked about the fact that he wants to be a manager in the future as well, and so he's learning from Tito. So you're almost getting a second manager with him there, and they are learning how to fight back, and we saw that twice just this week. And I think that Padres game was an outstanding, showing of that. And what's been really interesting to me, Joe, and we're going to talk about this here in just a minute, is all the young players have been hitting better since this meeting. So what are your takeaways from this? I think we can talk about this for a few minutes because I think it's deserved.
Yeah, I think we can go right into the question of the day, what who the leader of the team is, right? Like, this is, to me, I think it's pretty apparent. I think it's all the veterans in the clubhouse kind of working together. Trevino might be the one who is the more vocal one, and that's really awesome, and I appreciate what he does. And you can see how much his former Yankees teammates liked him, even though there was that little spat with Jazz Chisholm.
So funny.
They were just being funny. But yeah, it's more like keeping people accountable. We've needed that from a player perspective for a long time because it's something. I think maybe Scott Rowland was the last guy who really held people accountable. Joey Votto helped people out. I'm not sure he was the leader we were looking for, the clubhouse leader we were looking for. Although I do think they would be better if they had him kind of helping along the last couple of years anyway. But Trevino is the outspoken leader. Lux, I think, coming from where he came from, can help as well. And I think, even the guys like Espinal and like the veterans who've been around, we've seen that the approach at the plate from the young guys have kind of started to get closer to what the old guys did. Because at the beginning of the year, it was these guys having the best at-bats, and they were doing the right things. And like I said with Espinal and Trevino, they would hit the ball to the right side when they needed to. They would get a sac fly when they needed to. They would take some pitches if the pitcher got the first two guys out in the inning within 2 or 3 pitches. They would take some pitches and make the pitcher work. And part of that article, they talk about Lux saying the little things matter. And those things do matter. Your approach at the plate matters. And talking about what the pitcher is doing, rather than coming back to the dugout and just looking at the iPad and trying to see how your swing is going to help the rest of the team. And that's something I think we've been missing. So I'll say Trevino might be the vocal leader. Lux might be the leader by example, playing multiple different positions that he has not played before, helping the team in any way. Santiago Espinal, I say it was good too. I think Austin Hayes, getting him, obviously he's played in some decent baseball for the Orioles, and when he's healthy, he's shown some good approaches at the plate. So I think they did do a good job of getting veteran leadership in this clubhouse to help the young guys, and it took a while to get going, but it is starting to get going. And now they just now that they have things rolling, I think if you add some a proven bat to that mix where we have everyone rolling right now, man, this lineup gets real dangerous.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy to think that the Reds had done this during their last 2 real pushes, right? As they go out and get a role player who I don't even think they expected Scott Rowland to start every day at third base when they traded for him. I know they kind of did, but they knew that Todd Frazier and other people were coming up, right? So the hope was hey, you get one good season out of him, and maybe after that he just becomes a guy, right, who's there as a leader. I don't know if they did this on purpose, but the fact that the 2 guys who are turning this team around are the ones that they traded for, not only the ones who are playing well, but who are providing so much to this team, I have to think that Krall was targeting that. He might have been going for those types of guys, and I think they just happened to coincide with being guys who were available and who were good players who these other great teams just didn't need, and now they're helping this team so much. I don't know. This Trevino trade may end up going down as one of the all-times for the Reds, at least for this era of baseball. And it makes me wonder if Gavin Lux is another guy who they look at maybe extending or something like that, depending on how the rest of these young guys coming up and everything kind of play out. Because if he's going to be like that, even though he's been going through a slump during this entire time that they've been, all on an absolute tear, he's going to kind of pick it back up. He still has one of the best approaches at the plate on the team, probably the best in my opinion. He's just been a little bit unlucky. So I brought this up because the young guys are hitting now, Joe, and I wanted to kind of go through this. Ellie, I think most importantly, right? He has raised his batting average incredibly. He is batting .280 now, Joe, but I wanted to point out strikeouts. Over his last 30 games, 23 strikeouts. So he's had multiple games, a almost a third of his games without a strikeout in it. 5 strikeouts in his last 7 games. 11 in his last 15. Like, we are seeing more and more that he is making contact, and he's making good contact. And it's not just because he's on a tear. I get that. But his approach is better. He's hitting the ball from the right side better than he ever has. And what's crazy, Joe, is he was at one time the number 1 strikeout player in baseball. He is now 17 strikeouts away from O'Neal Cruz, who is leading baseball in strikeouts. He has almost dropped off the top 25 list for strikeout players with strikeouts in baseball. We are watching him go from, I said he was a star. He obviously had the potential to be a superstar. I didn't think he would turn around in 1 month right now, Joe. I mean, he is, if he can continue to ascend, continue to put all this together, he is going to just be the truly otherworldly player that we've all expected. I really wish the Reds would have pushed to try to sign him last month. Would have been a better option. Matt McLain, give him some due here. Now, his last 7 games have not been good, but his last 15 games, 291. His last 30 games, 252. We're seeing him make more contact consistently. He is also striking out a lot less than he was. He is making more contact. He has gotten that batting average all the way back up to 206, which may not seem like a lot, but he is absolutely doing better. He is working counts better and walking more. Joe, he looks a lot better. And then lastly, dude, Spencer Steer, like, looking like a goat right now. I know he had the 3 home runs, but even aside from that, raising his batting average to 254, you and I were, like, I think talking like, hey, if he hits 250 through the rest of the season, you know, he'll be in that 220 spot, and we'll be like, hey, you know, it was just a horrible start. This guy's kind of a 250 to 275 hitter. I mean, he is hitting anything and everything that is near him right now. Getting that average up to 254, considering where it was just a couple months ago, is impressive. I was actually looking at this really quickly, Joe. After the first 3 games in March, he was batting .083. After April, 188. In May, he batted .270, Joe, raising his batting average to 224. In June, he is hitting .315 and has raised his batting average to 254. He has raised his batting average almost 100 points since the end of April. These guys are starting to hit. They have leaders on this team. The pitching, which has been a little bit shakier lately, has been picked up in a big way, and you know they're going to come back and figure it out, especially after they get a bit of a break. You have guys like Benson coming off of the bench to give you some really crucial at-bats. I don't think he's a starter either, but I think you can play him in right field on a couple of days a week, especially against righties. And Austin Hayes is now back. We keep saying it. You go out and you get one more bat. This lineup may be one of the sneakier good ones in baseball with the way things have been going. And you have TJ Friedl at the top, who's still consistently getting hits. He may have had a bad week this week, Joe, but he's still batting, I think, in like the 280s plus. So, yeah, he's batting 284 still. So you're not going to complain about that whatsoever. Feels like this team's starting to come together, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And all these young guys are really starting to ascend at the same time, which is fantastic.
Yeah, with Steer, I think it was more just continuing to get comfortable with that injury. I mentioned that the Jim Day podcast pointed out that it was just an old injury from high school that got reactivated, and it was like a mental thing. And I think he's starting to feel more comfortable and build that confidence. And this is more of the player that we saw 2 years ago rather than the one we saw last year and this year. Ellie's K rate going down is incredible. It's probably the most incredible thing we've seen this whole season. The walks are up. He's seeing the zone better. He is a guy that I think from the right-handed side of the plate, he has shortened his swing to just sometimes make contact. We saw that, I think it was against the Padres. I don't remember which game. He hit a bat from the right-handed side of the plate late in the game, and he just squeaked one in between the third baseman and shortstop. And that's not a bad thing to do. I mean, yeah, we want to see some power from him. He does have 18 home runs. He's on a good pace for a good year. But sometimes it's nice to just be able to get contact on the ball when you have his speed. I think his approach at the plate has been the one that has jumped the most and has been the most impressive and has been the reason why the team is playing as well as it is because they have him just kind of leading the charge. McLean is playing better for the most part. I think he's seeing the zone a little bit better. He still has his moments where he doesn't look like he exactly see things right, or maybe that he's still guessing. He struck out on the high slider the other day. That was at the tip of the zone, and it looked like he was thinking fastball, and then he checked, and then it was a slider that was right there. I'm still waiting to see more on McLean. He still has a little bit unlucky of a player, but also is not providing much when breaking balls are being thrown. If you look at his like breakdown of which pitch and what he's hitting, he's doing okay with four seam fastballs. He's doing okay with sinker. That's actually his highest batting average. But every other type of off speed pitch is below 220 batting average and not offering much. So I think he's got to stop going up guessing and just kind of see the ball and hit the ball as bad as it sounds and see how it comes through. We'll see how he can bring up his averages up. He has improved, don't get me wrong, but I'm still waiting for him, out of all the people we've talked about, to take that next step, because that was what I was so impressed with when he came up, was his vision, was that he wasn't guessing, was that he would just, if the ball came in his off speed, he'd hit it the other way or just get contact on it. And I think that he can get back there. I think he's starting to get back there, but he still has a long ways to go if you go look at his Baseball Savant page in terms of just what his stats are against which pitches are coming in.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. And he still has the least amount of at-bats, of these players that we're talking about. So he has just completed his 163rd game. So he is now technically into his sophomore season. We went through those stats last week, but I will say he's walked more officially, at least. He's one walk away, but more in 15 less games. So he is getting there, but he still has a long way to go, without a doubt. I wanted to point out one more thing here about Ellie, and then we'll move on. Against left-handed pitchers, so batting righty, 184 in 2023. In 2024, 224 with 6 home runs. In 2025 right now, 240 with 5 home runs already. He's doing a great job. He is seeing the ball as well as he probably has, honestly. And he will absolutely rock a ball if you put it in the wrong spot, even as a righty. So I think he is starting to add value there as well. And I think that's really important for this team moving forward. Joe, I want to talk real quickly about the bullpen. I think, the bullpen is still doing a good job, but you can tell they're starting to struggle a little bit more. We're relying on guys like Lyon Richardson, who has been better. I will absolutely, give him credit for that. I think he has been surprising to me, Joe, in his ability to be a middle guy, but they're having to start to use him in the 7th. Ian Jabot just has not been the same since he has come back. Graham Ashcraft is on the IL. I still, for some reason, don't really trust Taylor Rogers all that much, Joe. I don't think he's bad, but I've been struggling with him. And then they keep having to use Barlow in situations where he's either giving up 3 or he's absolutely perfect and it looks fantastic. So, I guess I wanted to kind of just ask you, what do we do here with this? There have been a couple of consistent guys. I still think, I think Rogers is fine. I think Suter's actually been even better to me than Rogers, which is probably why they are willing to use him a little bit more. I know he has less games played, but he's got, 40 innings pitched compared to Rogers' 27. So, where are you at with this bullpen? You said they've been getting better, which they have in the last week, but they still feel, and I'm not one of those people, I've been really working on people being like, hey, don't just blame the bullpen. Look at the rest of the game, see where things have been. And I don't think that they're necessarily bad. I just think that it feels like they're getting tired, Joe. And there is a rumor, by the way, I don't know if you saw this or not, but Buck Farmer is apparently coming back. The Reds, his wife apparently said 3rd time is the charm, and she posted a bag with the Reds logo on it. There's a rumor that he is going to AAA either today or tomorrow, that they were already on their way to either Louisville or Cincinnati to kind of help them out. Buck Farmer did not pitch very well for the Braves this year, Joe, but he has been very consistent for the Reds, and if he has a fastball over 93 miles an hour, he is a nice inning eaters kind of guy who will get the job done for you, and who I think Derek Johnson loves quite a bit. So wanted to bring that up. Where are you at with them?
It's just there's too many of these ERAs start with the 4 or above for this part of the season. Some of them have been inflated by different things, whether they're starting off the season slow or, like you said, with Barlow, it is like a 50-50 coin flip whether he's going to have a good outing or a bad outing, it seems like sometimes. And it's just like there's not enough guys who have nasty stuff. Like there's good pitchers in there. I like Emilio Pagan as our closer this year. He probably has some of the worst stuff out of any closer. His stuff's fine, but like when you talk about closers, it is the elite of the elite.
Yeah.
And I think we're struggling with finding a left-handed specialist. That was something I think Charlie Goldsmith pointed out on Twitter this week. Sam Moll, with someone in the Sam Moll role, we just don't have. So finding someone, maybe Aroldis Chapman, who's former Red, that'd be nice. Someone like that. But I think we have to get one or two arms here if we're serious about contending. I like the bullpen as a whole. I think there's a bunch of guys who are average, some guys who are below average, but there's not anyone out there that we have right now where I'm like, he goes into the game and I'm like, this guy's stuff is nasty. I love it. This guy is awesome. Tony Santillan will be the closest I would say to that. He's been pretty good this season, 2.87 ERA. But like you said, it seems like he's getting a little bit tired. He's been used in 40 games, 37.2 innings pitched. That's where I'm at. It's like I think Tony Santillan might be the one who's like, oh, okay, that's a good, solid bullpen pitcher, and everyone else is like either a coin flip whether they're good or bad, or I just cringe when they go into the game. I'm not blaming them. I think they've battled tough. I think they've been put in some tough situations this year. I think Ito has done a good job of telling them, hey, I used you wrong. I'm sorry. Thanks for helping the team out. But I just kind of imagine this bullpen one or two more arms. And whether that's someone like Aroldis Chapman that we used to have, obviously, whether it's like that dynamic or whether even it's a little bit better than what it is right now, that's what I'm kind of looking for. More strikeout guys, more guys who have nasty stuff. There's some guys who get some strikeouts. Don't get me wrong. There's some guys who get some strikeouts. We've seen Graham Ashcraft have way more strikeouts this year than he ever has. Obviously, we talked about him injury-wise. And Emilio Pagan has had a lot of strikeouts as well for a reliever. But if you look past them, there's not many guys who are like really killing it with the strikeouts like the relievers usually can because they don't throw as much as the starters. So that's what I'm looking for. Strikeout guys with nasty stuff, guys who we can count on to have a 3.5-ish ERA because it is kind of a pretty bad drop-off after Tony Santillan. And I'm with you. Taylor Rogers, 2.93 ERA, but it really doesn't feel that way. So I want those two. I want two arms at the bullpen. I think we can give up some of our prospects we don't really care that much about to get them and really make this team a little bit more dangerous.
Yeah, I think for Rodgers, it's just that he comes into situations, he gives up a run, but it doesn't like count against him. I think that's kind of where it's been. I'd have to look up exactly what that looks like. That's what it feels like. There are four guys who I would say that I like in this bullpen. I think it's Santillan, Pagan, which I still can't believe I'm saying that after last year, but Santillan, Pagan. I do like Graham. I think I know he's not been great lately. I think that injury was really hurting him, but I do think he has pretty good stuff. And then Brent Suter. I just trust him. He's just savvy. I think he gets the job done. There's a guy who I'm watching, Joe. I want to see more from Connor Phillips. He has nasty stuff. If he can be around the plate, I think he's pretty gross. But I will say I wanted to quickly bring up Buck Farmer here, Joe. With the Reds, he was really good. 100 and let me check here real quick with my math. 176 games for the Reds, Joe. And he pretty much had a rock solid ERA almost every season. His highest ERA was a 4.20 in 2023. But 2022, 3.83, 2024, a 3.04. Now, I know he wasn't brought in necessarily to the most crazy situations, but you kind of need a guy like that. He doesn't necessarily walk a ton of guys. He's consistent. I mean, good Lord. 29 walks to 70 strikeouts in 2023, 29 walks to 70 strikeouts in 2024. He's averaging about a strikeout an inning, which is fine. Batting average against him with the Reds was never above 215. I don't know. He gets the job done. And I think the Reds, if they're going to go out and get him and kind of add him in here, I don't hate it. I still think they need to go get more. But I did want to bring that up as I was looking at it. I was like, you know what? Maybe he could be a nice little addition actually to this team. Instead of relying on a guy like, Richardson or Jabot, if Jabot's not going to, kind of be able to go back to being that guy who the Padres said had disgusting stuff, 2 years ago or whatever it was. I don't know. That's kind of where I'm at with him. But you got any final thoughts on him before we move on to some Chase Burns discussion?
Yeah, that's why it's tough with the bullpens. It changes years to year. One guy will have a good year one year, and the next year he won't. So it's always good to be vigilant, trying to get bullpen pitchers, especially at the deadline, because they are cheaper than other options. I do think Luis May will have a role at some point.
Yes.
I just he wasn't quite ready yet, and that's fine. His stuff is nasty. He's in AAA right now. Hasn't pitched for us since June 19th. I don't really know how he's done since he went back down, but he has a 3.7 ERA in the minors, 4.4 with us. The last time he pitched for us, he pitched 1.1 innings. I think that was a little bit too much for him, and he gave up a run, and that inflated his ERA from 4.15 to 4.4. So there's something to watch out. That is a guy who has some stuff. I think signing someone like Buck Farmer, having someone like Luis May in AAA as we go through this shouldn't stop you from getting another bullpen arm, but it does make you feel better that you have some depth if one or two more guys get hurt for the meantime. So
yeah,
think he'll have a role. I don't mind signing Buck Farmer and just seeing what he has left.
Yeah, me too. And yeah, he's really not even that old is what's funny. I think he's 33, 34. Yeah, so hopefully we could get another good little run for him. But let's move on. Chase Burns, after what I saw against a very good Yankees lineup, and really was one misplayed ball away from only giving up a run, maybe two. We can't say for sure, but more than likely one or two in that situation. Dude, I think Chase Burns is already he's in the rotation for me. I see no reason to take him out at this point. If they keep him to kind of 5 or 6 innings a game, he's going to get to, let me see here. How many innings has he pitched so far? 71 innings so far. He'd have about another 50, so at least 10-ish starts, which I think would get him mostly through the end of the season. And then you could probably use him in like a bullpen type role if, we're able to make it to the playoffs. So I think he makes it in here, and it brings up the question, when Hunter Green gets back, who's going to go where? What is going to happen at this point? Because you've got Green, you've got Burns, you've got Abbott for sure, right? And then you've got Lodolo, Martinez, and Singer. You've really only got 2 spots unless this team wants to go 6 rotation men and allow, maybe Martinez to occasionally take a bullpen inning or 2 here. I don't hate that idea, but where are you at with them? I still would rather see Burns, Abbott, and Green every 5 days when they are healthy, personally. But
yeah, I think it's tough because of Martinez's start the other day.
Yeah.
It made it a little bit tougher. Like, the easy answer is Martinez to the bullpen still, right? And I think that will end up being the move. And they're gonna. I think they'll probably sit down and talk to him and be like, "Hey, you did great. You can still be our spot starter. We are paying you a lot of money, but I would rather someone who's comfortable do this for the betterment of the team. We can keep Singer, we can keep Lodolo, we can keep Abbott, we can keep Green, we can keep Burns, and move you to the bullpen. And honestly, if we get to the playoffs, in a very candid way, we are not starting you in one of the playoff games. You're going to be a guy who comes out of the pen. No. So why don't we start the transition now to making you a bullpen guy, help our bullpen a little bit, who is struggling, and yeah, we go from there. Yeah, it does concern me. He doesn't strike out that many people this year, 6.6 per 9 innings, but he has that experience, and he's pitched in high leverage spots out of the bullpen. So that to me is the easy thing. Brady Singer, Rob, you've mentioned he could be involved in some trade talks if we really are trying to squeeze things. I don't think they will because they're so dead set on having starting pitching depth. It's not a bad idea by you. I just think that's what they do.
No, I agree.
Yeah. But I do think I don't want to move Brady Singer to the bullpen. I think Chase Burns would be an electric closer, but I don't want to mess with the rookie doing that. For our sake and for his, I don't want to ruin his development. So it's just the easy thing. Lodolo has been fine this year, 3.52 ERA. Martinez and Singer have been the worst starting pitchers we've had in terms of guys who have gotten a lot of run. And if it comes down to those two, I'd rather keep Brady Singer where he is. We can still move him to the bullpen in the playoffs, but let's have Nick Martinez help this bullpen out. I think is the only answer. And I'm with you. Chase Burns isn't going anywhere now. Unless he really ends up struggling down the stretch in the next couple of weeks here, I don't think he's going anywhere. And that does make a number crunch, and that's just the only logical answer I could see really working out.
Yeah, it would be surprising to see them do anything else. Look, the Reds still are in a great position. I mean, you're adding to arguably their best position. They are 9th right now in team ERA for starters, Joe. And that's without Hunter Green in the last, while, really. And you had, Singer and Martinez both kind of struggle a little bit. And even Lodolo, again, has struggled a little bit. I know he's been able to kind of work through it a little bit better, but they're one good week of baseball away from being nearly a top 5 starting rotation in baseball right now, ERA wise. And I think that, that's just going to be something that we're going to have to kind of keep an eye on. It is a decision that's going to be coming here sooner than later, Joe. I think Martinez probably gets kicked over there as well, but we'll have to see. So, Chase Burns, congratulations, man. Excited to watch you pitch tonight. And that's going to lead us right into it. Joe, we got the Red Sox, and Chase Burns will be getting his second start. So he goes Yankees, Red Sox, by the way, in his first 2 major league starts. And he's going to be going up against Garrett Crochet, who has been... I think, what would I say here? Even better than expected, I think, potentially for this team. He has just been electric since getting signed, brought over, I should say, and signing that big new contract with the Red Sox. Brady Singer will go up against Richard Fitz, and then Nick Martinez is scheduled to go against Brian Bayo. Again, this team has been one of the more underperforming teams, I would say. There have been talks about Alex Cora losing his job as they kind of continue to go into what I think is, I'll call it a mediocre season for them. They are 3 games under, 41-44. They are 8 games behind the Yankees. They're still only, because the AL is weird, 3 games out of the wild card right now, Joe. They are 3-7 in their last 10 games. Bregman can hit. Weiler Abreu can hit. While he's not consistent, Trevor Story can still hit. Jarren Duran is actually one of my favorite players to watch ever since watching that documentary. I'd already enjoyed him, but he's been really good. They brought up some young guys. Marcelo Mayer has struggled, but he is the top prospect, or was the top prospect in baseball before being called up. Tristan Casas has been hurt, unfortunately for them. Bayo has not been the guy who I think they thought when they signed that big contract, but he's been better this season. Let me see here. Fitz has a 4.68 ERA. He's not necessarily been very good. Where are you at with this team?
I sort of hate him. I think so after the Devers trade, in the last 10 games they're 3-7.
Mm-hmm.
Devers was a big part of that lineup. A lot of the people, I think Clayton Kershaw said on the Sunday Night Baseball broadcast when that happened that he's a top 10 hitter in baseball at worst. Tristan Casas is hurt, as you said. Ishida is hurt as we need to go down on the injuries. Alex Bregman's on the 10-day DL. I don't know if he's been back for this game or not. We always try to prognosticate whether they'll be back or not. We always end up wrong, so I'll leave it at that. There's bits and pieces of this team I do like. They've got some young talent. They're trying to work out, like you said, with Mayer, Roman Anthony.
I don't
know if they're really set on these guys being ready to play right now. Duran is good. Eric Crochet is awesome. The bullpen is the 8th best in the league, ERA wise. But there's also tons of guys that like I said with the young guys I don't know about. With some of the guys where it's they're trying to Lucas Giolito is a 3.99 ERA. He's doing fine, but a bunch of guys who are okay, they're trying to find themselves. I don't really know what to think of this team, to be honest. And I think taking Devers out of this team makes them worse, but also I think it deflated them a bit because it was right after they had swept the Yankees.
Yep.
So they're a solid team with talent, and I do think we can lose this series because of that, and we're also on the road. But if in terms of being the Boston Red Sox and they had Devers, it's so frustrating just as a fan of baseball that they kind of started to tear it down because he wasn't a team player, which the front office also doesn't really care about winning right now either for the Boston Red Sox. They're tied up with some other investments. So I don't know. I think if I was a Red Sox fan, I would start to hate this team a little bit too. Would have my favorite players here and there, obviously, but I don't know. I think it's one of these teams where because they're from Boston, I expect more of them. I expect them to be 10 games above 500 right now, and they are under 500. So I don't know. It sucks that we got stuck with this pitching matchup we did this week because Crochet is tough, and then Brian Bayo is going to be tough too. So I don't know. I think this is going to be 1-2 series for me, Rob. I know we've won 6 of the last 7. I think we're going to lose to Crochet, and then I think we get 1 win the rest of the way just because he is such a good pitcher.
Yeah, I feel bad for Burns here, man. Yankees, then Red Sox, and Crochet in his second game. I think that we're going to go I don't know. Give me 2 seconds here. I need to. One thing I needed to check on. There's one person I need to check on. Where's he at? All right, Fitz is a righty. I'm gonna go 2-1. I think Crochet is gonna give us a problem. What's interesting, Joe, is we have a lot of opposite field hitters, right? And Ellie's kind of our one like true pool lefty, right? That short right field porch, I think, is going to play well for the Reds. I think that this will be helpful for them. I do wish that we had an Abbott or a Lodolo or a Green starting. There's a chance. I wouldn't say. Well, no, there's no chance. I was going to say there's a chance that Green comes back, but I guess probably not for this series. So, I want to say that they're going to find a way. Singer keeps them in the game, right? If it's, if the Reds have 3 runs, Singer's given up 2 or 3, right? I don't know. I just feel like that middle game plays really well for them. I think if Burns was able to dominate for the most part a Yankees lineup, I think this very volatile Red Sox lineup is going to be one that I think he can get after as well. I think he's going to keep that game close. And it's just going to be whether or not we can get Garrett, Crochet to throw a bunch of pitches. The Reds did beat him last year when he was with the Red Sox, or White Sox, if you remember. And then, Brian Bayo's been better recently, especially. So that might be a tough game, but I think they're going to be able to keep it in them. They've been fighting. I'm going to give them 2-1 in this series against a team that I think is struggling to figure out who they are and what they want to do. So that's my hope. We'll see if it ends up coming to fruition. We'll move on to the Phillies. Joe, Philadelphia is one of the best teams in baseball right now, Joe. Their starters are absolutely outstanding. The Reds are going to be sending up Andrew Abbott versus Luzardo, Nick Lodolo versus Ranger Suarez, and then Chase Burns. It's a double Chase Burns week, Joe, versus Christopher Sanchez, a guy who gave the Reds a little bit of fits last year. Give me your thoughts on this team.
Yeah, how about Chase Burns? You said in the first 3 starts, you're at the Phillies, who have a very dangerous lineup.
Yeah.
There's not many weak points in this lineup. They have done a good job of filling holes. It seems like they are a team that maybe has more issues in the clubhouse. Nick Castellanos not happy with being pulled from games late for defense. We saw that in Cincinnati.
Yep.
But they can mash the ball really well. They hit about the same against lefties and righties, which makes it tough. And I don't know. The weakness of this team is definitely the bullpen, but their starting pitchers are pretty good. Their starters are pretty good. Position players are pretty good. Jose Alvarado being suspended for 80 games for PEDs is what's really killing this bullpen. They are, I think, the 6th or 7th worst bullpen in baseball right now.
Mm-hmm.
But everyone else, like this is outside of bullpen, they are a World Series contending roster. And I expect to be in a lot of trade battles with them if we're actually trying to make a run at this. So,
yeah, no doubt about it. And I think that they're going to be a team that it's going to be, it's going to be one of those games where grind as many at bats out as you can. If you can get a 8 pitch at bat right early on in the game, that's going to do as much as getting a hit, like a base hit, with 2 outs and stuff like that. If you're the guy that comes up with 2 outs, you can't find your pitch, just keep fouling them off. Right, just keep finding a way to kind of grind through this so that you can get to him. Jesus Luzardo is beatable. He's got a 4.06 ERA right now, Joe. He has been struggling a little bit. Ranger Suarez and Christopher Sanchez. Christopher Sanchez and Ranger Suarez, actually, both of them, they might be some of the least talked about pitchers in baseball right now, Joe, for how good they really are. We're not even talking about Aaron Nola, who's been out and honestly did not look very good when he was healthy either. But Christopher Sanchez, has consistently, 3.44 ERA in 23, 3.32 in 2024, 2.79. He's only been getting better. Ranger Suarez got that new contract. He's been just awesome. 4.18 in 2023 down to a 2.24 and now to a 3.46, and now down to a 2.0 ERA. He's been outstanding as well when he's been healthy. What else is unfortunate, Joe, is that I believe all 3 of them are lefties. They are. So this is going to be a tough series. I think if you're the Reds, you're hoping to win the first one, the Andrew Abbott versus the Luzardo start. So I'm going to go 1-2 against the Phillies, Joe. We're going to need, last time we had some divine intervention, if I remember, last year during those rain games where the Reds were able to pull out. I think it was 2 of 3 against them. We're going to need something like that to pull out 2 out of 3 against this team.
Yeah, how about this tough schedule? We played Max Fried last week. He is number 2 in Major League Baseball in ERA with a 1.92. Hunter Brown is number 1, 1.74 for the Astros.
Already faced him.
But then we get Crochet, who is 2.06. He is 3rd in qualifying ERA. And we get Ranger Suarez, who has a 2.00. He does not yet qualify to be the lead leaguers, but if you look at it, 3 of the 4 top pitchers in baseball this year, basically. That is crazy. I think I'm going to go 2-1 in this series, Rob. And it does shock me because of the lefty thing. But I think I'm going to flip it this time because our pitchers that we have going, I think, are good matchups for this lineup, despite that they do hit lefties well. Because Abbott's been incredible. I think we can win that game with Luzardo that you mentioned because that's the one we probably have to win. But I also really like Nick Lodolo versus Suarez. I think that's going to be a good pitching matchup. Lodolo gets a lot of hate, too, from Reds fans. Kind of weirdly, 3.52 ERA. I'm fine with it. He hasn't had like the signature 15 strikeout game. I don't care. He's been fine. And then Chase Burns against Sanchez. I want to see what this kid has. Like it does suck that he is going up against such a tough schedule to start his MLB career, and his second start is in that cookie cutter Boston short porch in right field. And while the wall is tall in left field, it's very easy to hit that, hit it over the wall, hit it off the wall. I want to see what the kid has. I think this is a series that they could win. And like I mentioned, the Phillies do have their fair share of locker room issues. They are 5-5 in their last 10 games. I think they're more beatable than we think. Now, I'm going to say this, and they're going to hit us and kill us 20-1 or something like that. But I really do like – I think the pitching matchups aren't – I think the Phillies are favored in the starting pitching matchups. I don't think we're as far off from them as people think. And that bullpen is just so bad. If we can get to the bullpen – that is huge. So I'm going to go 2-1, 3-3 for the week. But I think it could very easily be flipped. It could be 2-1 Red Sox, 1-2 Phillies as well.
I will say their bats are not as strong as people think. It's really been Kyle Schwarber that's been their big power guy. Almost everybody else hasn't been really hitting for power. They only have, despite him having 25 home runs, Joe, they only have 88 as a team. They're 3 behind the Reds even right now. So I will say that if you can control Schwarber, who is a lefty, I think you can get in front of this team and get some work done. This is a team that worries me to the point of where I think there's a possibility of it being our first sweep of the year against us, just because I think those pitching matchups are tough. And Abbott's been looking a little bit more tired. Lodolo's looked a little bit more tired, and Burns is young. So we'll see. Again, I don't know. I could be totally off base on that one, and we go out there and we sweep them. I don't know. The way that this team has been hitting, I don't think there's any team that's that much better than us right now in terms of if we are actually hitting and our pitching is consistent. I think that we can absolutely play with just about anybody. And we'll see. Maybe they'll end up bringing back Hunter Green for the weekend series and they'll move Burns back or something like that to the Monday start. There is that possibility as well. As I believe, let me make sure before I say this. I think he would technically be able to pitch that Sunday game. So we'll have to see. Maybe that'll end up happening. But Joe, you got any wise words for us before we send us out of here?
Yeah, I got a couple different things. Let's start with rest in peace, Dave Parker. The Cobra passed away. They wanted to announce it at the game. They announced it while the Big Red Machine was being was going on, the celebration of them, and they obviously played against Dave Parker when he was on the Pirates, and then later Dave Parker did play for the Reds. Cincinnati guy. My grandpa was the principal at the school that he was at growing up, and so I heard a lot about him growing up. Very big cannon of an arm, was a very good hitter, arguably some of the best, like one of the best players in the 70s, and he was getting into the Hall of Fame this summer, so I'm sad he didn't get to see that, but he definitely deserves it. With that being said, Big Red Machine documentary, I'm going to bring it up again. I said it last year. I want to see a Big Red Machine documentary. Pete Rose documentary is fine. Big Red Machine's about a whole lot more than Pete Rose, and I think there's a whole world of things to explore before more of these players pass away, to be honest. I would love to hear their stories and hear more about this team because I don't think it's been covered in the right way, uh, in large part by anyone, any media company or any the Reds even. I think it should be. I should be able to watch a 10-part documentary about the Big Red Machine if I can watch a 10-part documentary about O.J. Simpson or something.
I
That's
completely
how I feel.
agree.
So, and then the last thing, Rob, we talk about how much we struggle in division games this year, and specifically that's like the only series we've lost in the last 7 is to the Cardinals. Our next division game, August 4th against the Cubs. So if it is true that, hey, maybe it's not we struggle against bad teams or good teams, it's more just about we just really stake against our division. We got about a month and a couple of days added to it to kind of build a lead here. So that's advantageous with how good the division's been playing too.
Well, and not just that, but by that point, we may have some reinforcements to be playing against the Cubs. So that could be very nice. We're gonna hope beyond all hope that Nick Kroll is gonna actually go out and do something. I know it's not just him, but the hope is that this Reds front office will go out and find a bat. There are going to be bats available. We are going to see a team fall between now and the trade deadline. At least one, maybe two. A lot of NL and AL executives are saying that. I fully expect it as well. It happens pretty much every year. It's going to be who that is and who becomes a seller. And whether or not, like you said, we're going to be getting into these battles with teams like the Phillies who they need help. They need a bat, and they need some bullpen arms as well, like you said. So it would be interesting to see Aroldis Chapman come back to Cincinnati after all this time. I know my dad would be ecstatic. It's one of his favorite players he's ever watched. So we'll have to see. But that is going to wrap it up for us on this one. So with that, guys, we'll catch you on the next one.